The brush felt foreign in my hand as I stood before the pristine canvas, my heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. After 20 years, I was finally returning to my passion. The art supplies store had been a treasure trove, and I'd splurged on the best materials money could buy. This was my moment. Just as I was about to make my first stroke, the door burst open. My stepdaughter Amelia stormed in, her face flushed with anger. "Lily, what is this?" She waved a piece of paper in front of me. "Dad said you refused to pay for my culinary school. How could you?" I set down my brush, trying to keep my composure. "Amelia, we've discussed this. You're an adult now, and—" "But you paid for Ryan's college," she interrupted, her voice rising. "This isn't fair." "That was different," I said, feeling my patience wear thin. "Your brother had a scholarship, and we only covered the difference." "So what? You have the money." Amelia's eyes darted to the expensive art supplies scattered around the room. "What's all this, then? You can buy fancy paints, but not help me with my future?" Before I could respond, Mark appeared in the doorway, his expression a mix of confusion and disappointment. "Lily, what's going on? Why are you suddenly being so selfish?" The word hit me like a slap. Selfish? After everything I'd done for this family? "I'm not being selfish," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm finally doing something for myself after years of putting everyone else first." Mark's eyes narrowed. "We need to talk about this, now." As they both glared at me expectantly, I realized with a sinking feeling that my dream of a peaceful return to painting was about to become a battlefield. And for the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sure whose side Mark was on. I stood my ground, arms crossed, as Mark and Amelia glared at me from across the kitchen table. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "I can't believe you're choosing paint over my future," Amelia spat, her eyes brimming with tears. "That's not what this is about," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're 24, Amelia. It's time you start taking responsibility for your own life." Mark slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. "Damn it, Lily, we're a family, we support each other. What's gotten into you?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I've supported this family for years, Mark. I've put my dreams on hold. Is it so wrong for me to want something for myself?" "But Mom would never," Amelia started. "I'm not your mother." I snapped, instantly regretting my outburst as hurt flashed across Amelia's face. The room fell silent. Mark's jaw clenched, his eyes cold. "Maybe that's the problem," he said quietly. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Ryan walked in, oblivious to the tension. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, looking around at our stony faces. Amelia turned to him, her voice dripping with venom. "Lily's decided she'd rather waste money on stupid art supplies than help me go to culinary school." Ryan's eyes widened. "What? But you paid for my college." "That was different," I started to explain, but Mark cut me off. "No, Lily, it wasn't." His voice was ice. "I think it's time we had a serious talk about your priorities." As 3 pairs of accusing eyes bore into me, I felt a surge of anger and determination. This was my life, too, and it was time they understood that. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of my stand. The next morning, I woke to find Mark's side of the bed empty. Voices drifted up from downstairs, hushed but intense. I crept down the stairs, my heart pounding. "She's changed, Dad." Ryan's voice carried clearly. "It's like she doesn't care about us anymore." "I know, son," Mark replied, his tone weary. "I'm starting to wonder if I even know who she is anymore." I froze, my hand gripping the banister. "How dare they?" "Remember when she helped me with college?" Ryan continued. "I thought she cared then, but now, I'd had enough." I stormed into the kitchen, fury propelling me forward. "Is that what you think? That I don't care?" They both jumped, guilt flashing across their faces. "Lily, we were just—" Mark started. "Just what?" I snapped. "Discussing how selfish and uncaring I am, after everything I've done for this family." Ryan had the decency to look ashamed, but Mark's expression hardened. "Everything you've done? Like refusing to help Amelia with her dreams?" "Her dreams?" I laughed bitterly. "What about my dreams, Mark? When do I get to pursue what I want?" "That's not how family works, Lily," he said, his voice cold. "We sacrifice for each other." "And what exactly have you sacrificed?" I shot back. "Or your children. It's always been me giving, giving, giving. Well, I'm done." Silence fell, heavy and oppressive. Then Ryan spoke, his voice trembling. "Maybe Maybe it would be better if you just left. The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to defend me, to say something. But he just stood there, silent. In that moment, I realized I was truly alone in this house. And for the first time, I wondered if that might not be such a bad thing after all. I was still reeling from the morning's confrontation when the doorbell rang. Opening it, I found myself face to face with Janine, Mark's ex-wife. Her saccharine smile sent chills down my spine. "Lily, darling," she cooed, brushing past me into the house. "I heard there was a little family drama. I thought I'd pop by to help smooth things over." Before I could respond, Mark appeared, his face lighting up. "Janine, thank goodness you're here." My stomach churned as I watched them embrace. Amelia and Ryan rushed downstairs, throwing themselves into their mother's arms. "Mom," Amelia cried, "Lily won't help me with culinary school. She's being so selfish." Janine's eyes narrowed as she turned to me. "Is that so? Well, we can't have that, can we?" I felt my anger rising. "This is none of your business, Janine." "Oh, but it is," she replied smoothly. "These are my children, after all. And Mark, well, we have a long history." The implication hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I looked at Mark, silently pleading for support, but he avoided my gaze. "Now," Janine continued, addressing the room, "I think it's time we had a family meeting to discuss Lily's priorities." As they all nodded in agreement, I felt a surge of panic. This was my home, my life, and yet I was being pushed out, treated like an intruder. "No," I said firmly, surprising even myself. "No family meeting. This is my house, and I want you to leave, Janine." The room fell silent. Mark finally looked at me, his expression a mix of shock and anger. "Lily, you can't just—" "I can," I interrupted, "and I am." I turned to Janine. "Get out, now." As I stood there, trembling but resolute, I realized I had reached a crossroads. The decision I made next would change everything. The days following Janine's arrival turned into a nightmare. She'd taken up residence in our guest room, her presence a constant thorn in my side. The house felt like a war zone, with Janine as the general leading the charge against me. One evening, I overheard a hushed conversation between Mark and Janine in the study. "We need to do something about Lily," Janine whispered. "She's tearing this family apart." "I know," Mark sighed, "but what can we do?" "I have an idea," Janine replied, her voice dripping with malice. "Remember that joint account you two have?" My blood ran cold. I'd put my entire life savings into that account, trusting Mark completely. "Janine, I can't just—" "Think of the children, Mark, Amelia's future, Ryan's struggles. Lily clearly doesn't care about them anymore." I'd heard enough. I burst into the room, shaking with rage. "How dare you? Both of you!" Mark jumped up, his face pale. "Lily, it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I spat. "You're plotting to steal my money." Janine stood, her mask of concern slipping to reveal a triumphant smirk. "Oh, Lily, you brought this on yourself. If you just played your part—" In that moment, something inside me snapped. I turned to Mark, my voice ice-cold. "Choose, right now, her or me." The silence stretched on, Mark's eyes darting between us. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Lily." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. As I looked at their smug faces, I realized I had a decision to make. Stay and fight? Or walk away from it all? My hands clenched into fists. One thing was certain, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I stormed out of the house, my mind racing. I needed a plan, and fast. My first stop was the bank, where I discovered the worst. Mark had already drained our joint account. My life savings gone. Rage and determination fueled me as I drove to my office. I worked through the night, combing through years of financial records. By dawn, I had uncovered a web of deceit that made my blood boil. Mark and Janine had been siphoning money from my business for years, funneling it into secret accounts. With trembling hands, I dialed my lawyer. "Meet me at the house in an hour," I said. "It's time to end this." As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Mary, my best friend, waiting anxiously. "Lily, thank God, I've been trying to reach you all night." I filled her in quickly, watching her eyes widen in shock. "I'm here for you," she said, squeezing my hand. "Whatever you need." We walked into the house together, finding Mark, Janine, Amelia, and Ryan huddled in the living room. Their faces paled when they saw my expression. "Lily," Mark started, but I cut him off. "Save it," I snapped, tossing a thick folder onto the coffee table. "I know everything. The embezzlement, the secret accounts, all of it." Janine lunged for the folder, but Mary intercepted her. "Don't even think about it," she growled. The doorbell rang. My lawyer had arrived. As I moved to answer it, Mark grabbed my arm. "Please, Lily," he begged. "We can work this out." I jerked away from him, years of pent-up anger and hurt boiling over. "Work what out, Mark? How you've all used me? How you've stolen from me?" As my lawyer entered, I felt a surge of power. This was it, the moment I'd take back control of my life. But as I looked at the shocked faces of my family, I realized the hardest part was yet to come. The living room crackled with tension as my lawyer, Mr. Simmons, laid out the evidence of Mark and Janine's financial deceit. Amelia and Ryan sat stunned, their faces a mix of disbelief and dawning horror. "You've been stealing from me for years," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, all while making me feel guilty for not giving you more. Mark's face was ashen. "Lily, please, I can explain." "Explain what?" I cut him off. "How you and Janine conspired to drain my accounts, how you manipulated your own children to pressure me." Janine stood up, her mask of civility finally cracking. "You don't deserve any of this, you gold-digging." "Enough!" Mary shouted, stepping between us. "Lily has been nothing but generous to this family." I turned to Amelia and Ryan, my heart breaking at their confused expressions. "I loved you both like my own. I supported your dreams, paid for your education. And this is how you repay me?" Ryan spoke up, his voice trembling. "Dad told us you were holding out on us, that you didn't really care." "And you believed him?" I asked, feeling a surge of both anger and pity. Mr. Simmons cleared his throat. "Mrs. Thompson, given the evidence, we have a strong case for fraud and embezzlement. How do you want to proceed?" The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I looked at each face. Mark's desperation, Janine's defiance, the children's confusion, Mary's unwavering support. Years of memories, both good and bad, flashed through my mind. In that moment, I realized the true weight of my decision. This wasn't just about money or revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my identity, my future. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. "I want it all back," I said firmly. "Every penny. And then I want a divorce." The room erupted into chaos, but I stood firm. This was my moment of truth, and I was ready to face whatever came next. 6 months after that fateful confrontation, I stood in the center of a bustling art gallery, surrounded by my paintings. The divorce was finalized, my finances restored, and my heart, well, it was healing. As I sipped champagne, I caught sight of Amelia and Ryan hesitantly entering the gallery. My breath caught in my throat. We hadn't spoken since that day. They approached slowly, their eyes taking in the vibrant canvases around them. "Lily?" Amelia said softly. "These are beautiful." I nodded, unsure what to say. Ryan cleared his throat. We owe you an apology. We didn't understand before, but now we see how Dad and Mom manipulated us all," Amelia finished. "We're so sorry, Lily." Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." As we talked, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. They weren't asking for money or favors, just understanding and perhaps a chance to start over. Mary appeared at my side, beaming. "Lily, there's someone here to see you." I turned to find an elegant woman in her 60s studying one of my paintings intently. "Miss Thompson," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Gloria Winters from the Winters Gallery. I'd love to discuss featuring your work in our upcoming exhibition." As I shook her hand, feeling a mix of shock and elation, I caught sight of my reflection in a nearby mirror. The woman looking back at me was strong, confident, and free. She was an artist, a survivor, and finally, undeniably herself. In that moment, I realized that my true revenge wasn't in the legal battles or the confrontations. It was in reclaiming my passion, my independence, and my joy. As I turned back to Gloria, ready to discuss my future as an artist, I felt a surge of gratitude for the difficult journey that had brought me here. This was my new beginning, and I was ready to paint it in the boldest colors imaginable.